Hello, I'm Frank Boxberger, and I'm here to talk about Occam's razor theory. Now, Occam is actually an M of a place, and a man named William Occam in the early 1300s, so this is in the 14th century, came across the theory that basically stated when there are two or more theories about some unknown process, that it is much more reasonable that the process that takes the least amount of support, the simplest, if you will, is the theory you should choose as being correct. He spent most of his life studying and proving this theory the best you can prove it. And even though he didn't originally come up with it, he was lecturing and wrote so much about it, it became known as Occam's theory, or Occam's razor theory. Now, his name is really William. I don't even know his last name, but it was William of Occam. A lot of times back then, like Leonardo da Vinci, his last name isn't da Vinci, it's Leonardo from da Vinci in Italy. So Leonardo da Vinci. So it was William of Occam. Now, what's so great about this theory is it can be applied into a lot of our debates today. So today I wanted to take that Occam's razor theory, explain a little bit what it is, why it was named the razor theory, and then excel into a quick explanation of the Big Bang theory, then evolution, versus a simple creation story where God created everything we see in 7 days, actually 6 days, and rested. So I'm going to go back to Occam's razor theory. It was later named razor theory because as a face is clean shaven, you can see it clearly. But every whisker on a face eventually grows into a beard, covers your face. You can't see a face any longer. So a lot of these theories that people come up with that have some fallacies, then they need to explain another reason that that fallacy works, and another and another and another. And so eventually you can't even see the face anymore. So William Occam came up with this theory is, let's shave off all the whiskers, and that one with no whiskers, it's just a simple explanation, or 1, 2, or 3 whiskers, that's probably the correct theory. So now we're going to apply that. In fact, even with the origin of life now, it's gotten so difficult for the origin of life to even happen. Now we're adding another whisker saying aliens came down and started life as we know it on the planet. But then where did the aliens come from? Now you've got 1,000 other whiskers that cause the same problem. In the Big Bang theory, as far as the starting of the entire universe, time, where did time come from? That's a problem. How old is it? Well, it used to be 13.8 billion years old, but now since the James Webb telescope, we can look out 30 billion each direction. So even if we assume the Earth was in the center, which they say we can't assume, that's 60 billion years that it would have to have been created if it was on one side or the other. And by the way, we're not done seeing as far as it goes. So now with the new galaxies, the old galaxies, the distance of things, it's just not working. Of course, all the theoretical physicists are trying to now reverse engineer this, adding to this Occam's theory, and add a lot more whiskers of how a new galaxy, how the planets could have spread this far in this short of a time and still had enough heat to still show light. So we're going to talk first about the Big Bang theory. First, we have to explain how the universe is here. You know, if we look up at in our planet and see an ocean, stars, sun, moon, waterfall, rainbow, clouds, mountains, some of us, myself, I can look up and say, wow, the Creator, He is amazing. He created all this in 6 days just by speaking the words. The Creator is Jesus Christ. You can read Isaiah 48, 12 through 16, through the Father, and the Spirit, the Son, created this. John 1:1, Jesus created the universe. Colossians 1:15, Jesus is the visible expression of the invisible God. Nothing was created, everything was created through him and not without him. So we worship the Creator, Jesus Christ, and that's the simple Occam's theory razor. One God in three persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So let's give it three whiskers. Created this by speaking the words. Time, space, planets, everything we see. Now, without that, we have to do a lot of explaining. And since Darwin came up with the evolutionary theory, let's say 175 years ago, it's become more and more complicated. They first had the natural selection and the mutation theory, and then natural selection, you slowly change from one species to the other. And now after 175 years of digging up artifacts and looking at fossils, we haven't found one intermediate species that was not falsified. Any you see online, they're called the missing link. There is none. They've all been proven false, and there should have been millions of intermediate species. Then you go to the mutation theory, and all of a sudden, a dog is pregnant and spits out a cat. That's the mutation theory. Okay, so anyway, whisker on the evolution side of things, of something becoming something else. It's interesting that some people will say, well, if you look at a gorilla, that has 98% of the same DNA that humans have. Yeah, but if you look at a rat, it's 90% the same. If you look at a pig, it's 95% the same. So what they don't understand is the DNA in one chromosome, or the entire chain of chromosomes, is same information if you took 10,000 novels and filled them with information of the building blocks of life. That's how much information a chromosome has. So what? 98% a gorilla to 100% a human being, you're missing 2%. Okay, what is 2% times 10,000? Well, that's 200 books, novel books, full of information of how we differ than a gorilla. That is a ton of information. We're completely different. 200 novel-sized books of scientific information of why we're different. The other thing that's obvious is we can create. Gorillas are still using rocks and monkeys to get ants out of the thing. As a tool. Otters are still using rocks to bang things open. Honeybees are still using the same way they've always done things. Animals have never created anything. Humans are unique. They're created in God's image, and we can create. Look around you. Right now, I'm recording this on an iPhone that does almost everything, and humans have created since day one. Anyway, getting back to Occam's theory. Therefore, with evolution, it is so complicated. They're still trying to explain things with zero evidence, and you can't even explain the human eye, which is amazing. They're still trying to build color TVs past 4K, because our tiny little human eye that actually sees for two different advantages on a little half-inch by half-inch screen can take a 3-foot by 6-foot television set, and we can still see better than the television set in our human eye. And those two images, which we see in 3D, our brain puts it all together, flips it upside down, and we see color, on and on and on. So complicated. And we have Occam's theory to think that God just said, let there be time, let there be space, let there be everything we see here, or chase down the Big Bang Theory, which, by the way, where did the gas come from, the swirling gas, and time come from? You still have a problem. It had to come from somewhere. Now you've got another big problem of hydrogen and helium gas. How did they explode? How did they get hot? Energy has to exist. You can't get hot. If it's not hot, the gas is frozen and the gas couldn't have exploded. So there's a million problems with just the beginning of this gas swirling. And do you know how much gas swirling it would need to be to fill 60 billion light years of stars? Remember, the sun is 1,000 times larger than the Earth, and there's other stars out there 1,000 times larger than our sun. That's a lot of gas, a lot of explaining. So that's the Big Bang Theory, and the guy who invented that was actually a guy from Belgium that became a Jesuit priest, and he also studied astrophysics and was interested in a lot of this stuff. So he came up with this whole idea that everything just started from nothing. But the problem is, another whisker, if you will, in Occam's theory is, well, it couldn't be nothing, so it was something. It was gas, so much gas it would fill this whole Milky Way of that we live in with gas. Where did that gas come from? And if it was just hydrogen and helium, where did all the other elements come from? So you think that that's complicated. Then we get to Darwin's theory about the fact that life started. Well, if you study life, there's two kinds of life, animal life, and everything that breathes oxygen, including insects and people, are considered animals. We breathe oxygen. The other kind of life is plants, from algae to the trees that we know. So plants breathe carbon dioxide. Well, plants can actually live off of materials in the soil, and so plants would have to come first. If an amoeba or one-celled animal came first, the first thing it needs is sunlight and water. Okay, we'll give it that. But then it needs organic material to eat. That means something that used to be alive. You can't be the first living thing that is alive if there's no something that didn't live before you. Therefore, plants have to be created first. Now, what does it take? That could be an algae. So algae has to be created first. It has to be in water, it has to have sunlight, and it needs food. But now the chances of algae continuing to grow and grow and grow, then animals come next, and within this happening within the same year would be crazy in the big scope of billions of years. And if one developed first, plants, then how did they continue to grow, get seeds, male and female in some cases, all over the planet, and eventually they'd run out of what they breathe in, carbon dioxide. They are symbiotic. They need the animals to breathe out the carbon dioxide, and the animals need them to breathe in. This is loaded, just the tip of the iceberg is loaded with whiskers, so long and strenuous and complicated that the ZZ Top guys, Billy Gibbons, known for his giant beard, this is what Big Bang and the Darwin's evolutionary theory look like to me. And I'm going to say that when you shave all the hair off of Billy Gibbons' beard, we would know what he looks like for the first time. And I think that I made somewhat of a case for Occam's theory. Just believe that God, who is omnipresent everywhere at the same time, he is omniscient, he knows everything, he's omnipotent, all-powerful. He can do that. He created time, he created space, and he created the entire universe with perfect design. Second law of thermodynamics say things over time get less complicated, they break down, and they're not organized. This universe on our Earth, very organized. Symbiotic relationships, biosystem, all this is so complicated, it didn't just happen. It was designed by a common designer. So if somebody says, well, there's too many common designs between the 5 bones in a whale's fins and the 5 bones in human, they say it's too common. I say, no, it's a common designer. The designer is the only common. Okay, that's Occam's theory, how I'm applying it to evolution and the Big Bang theory, and I hope you choose Jesus as your creator. Thank you so much. Bye.